Here is something the Pentagon press briefings will not walk you through step by step. Not because the information is classified, not because it hasn't been confirmed, but because when you lay it all out in sequence, the specific systems destroyed, the specific nodes targeted, the specific logic behind every strike, what emerges is a picture that fundamentally contradicts the narrative of American military dominance that has shaped this region for half a century. So let's lay it out, all of it. Confirmed by satellite imagery from Planet Labs, verified by the New York Times, documented by the Institute for the Study of War, acknowledged in official Pentagon statements and reported on the ground by Stars and Stripes. Every claim you are about to read exists in the public domain right now. The question is whether anyone is willing to look at it clearly. Let's begin not with explosions, but with geography. Al Dhafra Air Base sits 32 kilometers south of Abu Dhabi. 2 runways, each over 12,000 feet long, more than 60 U.S. attack aircraft confirmed on site in satellite imagery taken just weeks before the fighting began. 10 full aircraft squadrons, drone operations, aerial refueling tankers, and underneath all of that, visible military hardware, something far more valuable. Al Dhafra was the intelligence brain of the entire U.S. Central Command Theater. Every reconnaissance flight, every drone feed, every radar sweep covering Iran, the Persian Gulf, and the surrounding region flowed through this base. Commanders across the Middle East depended on Al Dhafra to know what their enemy was doing before it happened. Iran hit it on the first morning of the war, February 28, 2026. While the United States and Israel were still executing their opening strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, Iran launched 137 ballistic missiles and 209 drones at the United Arab Emirates in a single opening salvo. And that was just day one. By March 7th, the Way Defense Ministry confirmed that a total of 1,350 drones, 8 cruise missiles, and 221 ballistic missiles had been detected in Way airspace. The scale of that number is almost impossible to process emotionally, so instead understand it strategically. Iran did not send those weapons because it was angry. It sent them in a deliberately engineered sequence. Waves of low-flying Shah drones arrived first, forcing short-range defensive systems to engage continuously, burning through interceptor inventories and pushing radar operators and missile batteries into sustained high tempo response cycles. Then, into the gaps that created, came precision-guided ballistic missiles. Variants of the FAT-313 and the longer-range Khyber-Shikan weapons specifically engineered to perform lateral maneuvers during their terminal descent, reducing intercept probability even against Patriot and THAAD systems. The result was not random damage. Satellite imagery from Planet Labs, comparing pre-war baselines from August 2025 with post-strike images from March 1st, confirmed heavily damaged facilities within a specific compound at Al Dhafra. And the crown jewel of what was destroyed there was the AN-TP2 X-band radar installation, a system valued at $500 million that serves as the eyes of the THAAD missile defense battery. To understand why that matters, you need to understand what the AN-TP2 actually does. It detects incoming ballistic missiles at ranges up to 600 kilometers. It tracks warheads through their mid-course and terminal flight phases. It discriminates real warheads from decoys with enough precision to cue interceptors for high probability kills. It links directly into the integrated missile defense network connecting THAAD batteries, Patriot systems, and naval interceptors across the entire Gulf theater. Without it, the defensive umbrella over the Way is fundamentally degraded. Missiles that would have been detected at maximum range and engaged at optimal altitude are instead detected later, lower, in terminal engagement windows where intercept probability drops sharply and reaction time compresses dangerously. Also destroyed in the same strikes, maintenance infrastructure for the MQ-9 Reaper drone fleet and the U-2 Dragon Lady high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft stationed at the base. The MQ-9, worth approximately $30 million per unit, is the backbone of persistent armed surveillance across the theater. The U-2, worth between $80 and $100 million per aircraft, is a 60-year-old design that remains irreplaceable for its ability to collect imagery and signals intelligence from above 70,000 feet altitudes beyond the reach of virtually every Iranian air defense system. When Iran destroyed the maintenance infrastructure for both platforms, it didn't just destroy aircraft, it destroyed the operational capacity to keep them flying. And simultaneously, 600 kilometers to the north, Kuwait was absorbing something even more sustained. Ali Al Salem Air Base in central Kuwait is not primarily a strike base. The U.S. Air Force describes it as the primary airlift hub and gateway for delivering combat power to joint and coalition forces throughout the region. It is the circulation system, the artery through which American military personnel, equipment, vehicles, ammunition, and logistics flow into the theater. Iran began hitting it from the first hours of the war and kept hitting it. Satellite imagery from Planet Labs released by the Institute for the Study of War showed multiple aircraft shelters and hangars struck in the opening days. More recent imagery confirmed that multiple radar domes and satellite communication systems at the base were destroyed entirely. On March 6th, the largest single attack since. The conflict began struck fuel and ammunition depots simultaneously, producing fires visible from satellite orbit that were geolocated to the base by multiple independent analysts. But the most devastating blow associated with Kuwait did not land at Ali al-Salem itself. It landed at the port of Shuaiba, Kuwait's logistics hub, where an Iranian drone struck a fortified tactical operations center and killed 6 United States service members. The Pentagon confirmed those deaths on March 2nd. The unit was the 103rd Sustainment Command Expeditionary Logistics Reservists based in Des Moines, Iowa. Not a combat unit, the people who keep the machine running, men and women whose job was coordinating the movement of supplies across the theater and who died in a hardened building at a port facility because Iran had specifically identified the supply chain coordination node whose destruction would create the most cascading disruption across the widest possible operational area. Their names were released one by one over the days that followed. Then, compounding every disaster in Kuwait, Stars and Stripes reported one of the most operationally alarming incidents of the entire conflict. Kuwaiti air defenses mistakenly engaged and destroyed 3 U.S. F-15E Strike Eagles in a friendly fire incident near Ali al-Salem. All 6 crew members were recovered safely, but the loss of 3 aircraft worth approximately $67 million each to their own side's defensive fire reveals exactly what Iran's saturation doctrine is engineered to produce. When hundreds of drones and dozens of ballistic missiles arrive simultaneously from multiple directions, when radar operators are tracking hundreds of objects at once. When engagement authority is delegated under extreme time pressure, the probability of misidentification rises sharply. The Kuwaiti operator who fired on those jets was not making a moral error. He was making a human judgment under conditions of near-total sensory overload in exactly the environment that Iranian strike doctrine was specifically designed to create. The New York Times satellite analysis, published March 4th and updated March 7th, documented the full scope of Iranian strikes across the region. Iranian attacks had damaged structures on or near communications and radar systems at a minimum of 7 U.S. military facilities. Camper Ifjan in Kuwait, at least 3 radomes, the protective covers for satellite communication dishes, damaged or destroyed. Muaffaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, a second NTP-2 THAAD radar confirmed destroyed, with a pair of 13-foot craters in the sand and all 5 40-foot trailers of the system appearing destroyed. Or seriously damaged. Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the NF's 132 early warning radar, valued at $1.1 billion, struck and confirmed damaged. Naval facilities in Bahrain, drone and missile strikes confirmed at the 5th Fleet headquarters. Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, satellite imagery showing smoke rising from the compound after Iranian strikes. Jebel Ali Port in Dubai, smoke confirmed rising from within a fenced-us Navy recreational zone. The financial accounting alone demands its own accounting. Anadolu Agency's calculation, based on confirmed satellite imagery and official statements, placed American military equipment losses approaching $2 billion before accounting for munitions consumed in defense, infrastructure repair costs, or the $891 million per day. Operational cost of sustained combat operations. 2 anti-P2 THAAD radars, $1 billion combined. The NF's 132 early warning radar in Qatar, $1.1 billion. 3 MQ-9 Reaper drones, $90 million combined, and 6 American lives. Only 8 THAAD batteries currently exist in the entire U.S. military inventory worldwide. Iran has now confirmed the destruction of the radar systems that 2 of those batteries depend on to function. A third NTP-2 was reported destroyed in Jordan on the evening of March 7th. 3 confirmed gone in a single week of conflict. Each one valued at $500 million, each one irreplaceable within any operationally meaningful time frame. What is striking and what has received almost no attention in mainstream Western coverage is the specific pattern of what Iran chose to destroy. Not runways, not fuel depots primarily, not the weapons themselves. Sensors, eyes, communication links, intelligence nodes, logistics coordination centers. The NTP-2 radars are the eyes of THAAD. The NFS-132 is the backbone of regional missile defense early warning. The radomes at Camper Ifjin are the satellite communications infrastructure through which CENTCOM coordinates operations in real time. The U-2 and MQ-9 infrastructure at Al Dhafra is the persistent surveillance capability that tracks enemy movement before it acts. The Tactical Operations Center at Shuaiba is where the logistics network that sustains everything is coordinated. Iran did not fire blindly and happened to hit valuable things. For years documented through every successive operation from April 2024 onward, Iranian forces mapped the specific nodes whose destruction would degrade American command, control, communications, intelligence, and logistics in the most cascading and irreversible way. What was executed in the first 7 days of this conflict is the product of that targeting development process made operational. And throughout all of this, the Gulf states hosting these bases have been living inside a political trap they warned was coming. Every major Gulf government, Qatar, the way, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain formally told Washington in January 2026 that they would not allow their territory or airspace to be used to launch strikes on Iran. They refused overflight. They refused logistical support for offensive operations. They sought to protect themselves from precisely the retaliatory exposure they are now experiencing. Iran struck them anyway, because under the laws of armed conflict, an American base in an allied country is a legitimate military target regardless of whether that ally wanted the war. The calculation Iran appears to be threading is this: strike us military facilities hard enough to degrade American capability, but stop short of attacking oil infrastructure and civilian economic systems at a scale that would politically force Gulf governments to stop merely enduring the war and start actively fighting it. So far, that needle is being threaded with some success. Gulf states have condemned the attacks in formal diplomatic language. None have pledged military support for US operations. None have opened their airspace for American strike missions against Iran. Meanwhile, their civilian populations are living with the consequences. 3 migrant workers killed in the way: a Pakistani national, a Nepalese national, a Bangladeshi national, at least 112 people recorded with minor injuries. The fire at the Fairmont Palm Hotel on Palm Jumeirah, the explosions audible above the Burj Al Arab Emirates Airlines flights suspended, Dubai International Airport evacuated. At 1:30 in the morning, an AWS data center in Bahrain going offline at 4:30 a.m. when an object struck it and cut power. The U.S. consulate in Dubai with a fire in its interior. The U.S. embassy in Riyadh struck by 2 drones and closed. The U.S. embassy in Kuwait evacuated. These are not distant battlefields. These are among the most globally connected cities on the planet, home to 90 different nationalities of people who had no vote, no voice, and no say in the decisions that brought this war to their streets. The people responsible for this war launched it without a congressional authorization vote, without exhausting the diplomacy that both sides described as still progressing, without a publicly articulated plan for replacing 3 THAAD radar systems now confirmed destroyed, without a public accounting of what happens when the interceptor stockpiles currently being drained across 9 countries run low. Those 6 logistics reservists from Iowa deserved better than an answer of silence. So did the migrant workers of Dubai. So do the 90 nationalities of people waking up this morning to the sound of air defense systems engaging the 8th and 9th waves of Iranian missiles crossing Gulf airspace. The nervous system of American military power in this region is being dismantled radar by radar, communication dome by communication dome, node by node in real time. And the bill, measured not just in dollars but in lives and in the 50 years of fragile architecture that prevented full-scale regional war, is coming due right now.